Hi everybody, welcome to another edition of Dr. Sue and You. So happy you can join me every week to learn how you can become the solution to any conflict within your life. Today we have another guest with us who is going to talk to you about that. And her name is Gabby Gast, and she is a co-parenting and blended family coach. Now, as you know, we talk about divorce and co-parenting on Dr. Sue and You all of the time, but we don't talk about what happens when you blend your families, because that can become even more difficult to do. So that's why I've called her in today to give her expert advice on this very important topic. I'd like to bring her in right now. Hi, Gabby.
Hi, Dr. Sue.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
So, Gabby, you don't even just do this for a living. You are somebody that has gone through a divorce and knows all about how difficult it is to actually co-parent. And I actually had the pleasure of being involved in one of your conferences this year, correct?
Yeah, it was great. It was a great time.
And what was that called, my dear?
Yeah, that was our Fearless Woman Summit. It was a podcast style series.
Exactly, because fearless women are really what we need to get through some of these very difficult divorces, right? Breaking through that fear is very, very difficult when you have someone that is coming at you constantly. So tell me a little bit about how you got into doing this kind of coaching and what led you to this.
Yeah, so I had, been with my high school sweetheart for a while, and we married in our early 20s. And at that point, I have cystic fibrosis, and my health was doing okay. And within, the next couple of years, we ended up adopting 2 kids, and we had 2 kids, and that was our life, and it was great. And over the years, there was a lot of mental and emotional abuse from my now ex-husband, and eventually it became physical on a family trip out of town. And when we came back, I really had been over all of it, so I left. It was really hard for me, and I just knew that the 2 of us were not meant to be together. However, I had no concern over him and his relationship with the kids. Like, he loved them so much, and he still loves them today. And so fast forward a little bit, after I left that very toxic relationship, I met my now husband, and within 8 months of us being together and dating, I bought a house and we moved in together. And a week later, I was diagnosed with end-stage cystic fibrosis. And without a double lung transplant, I didn't know how long I was going to make it. And, it felt like forever that I was on the transplant list. Overall, it really wasn't. 8 months later, I was blessed with lungs, double lung transplant, and I woke up a completely different person. I had a different perspective on life, and I was taking that gift, and I was not going to let it go. I was not going to sit and be sad that it happened. Everything happens for a reason. And from there, I really looked at the people that I had been in contact with, and divorce isn't talked about enough amongst the people that I had, networked with. And I just wanted to bring it to the front. And it started out as the Fearless Woman. And from there, when we did our event together and I interviewed you, I realized how many men as well go through very similar situations. And so from there, I've kind of rebranded, and I'm really excited for next year's event. And I've rebranded it into Co-Blending with Gabby Gast.
Oh, Gabby, I love that. Thank you for that, because we had talked so much about that it happens to men as well. And I'm so happy to see that you're going to bring that in to next year's event. It really was a great, great event. Lots of great information there. We'll talk about that at the end, how people can listen to that or get a copy of that. But right now I want to talk about you. First of all, you are a true survivor. Look what you've gone through in your life, and you've come out on top. And everything that you've done, you have worked through your fear. You have embraced that fear. And you're a believer, as I am, that things happen for us, not to us.
Yeah.
But just as you said, so we can grow from them. By the way, I'm very happy that you got that transplant and that you're alive and that you're here with us today. So let me say that first. The second thing that I picked up on, which I think is fascinating in what you said, is that a lot of not great stuff went on between you and your first husband. But with that being said, you recognized within all of that he was a very good father, and that you did not keep him from the children or try to, because of what happened between you and him. Now, this is what we want all divorced couples to do, right? The issues are between you and him, not between you, him, and the children, to that degree. But what was it inside of you that came to you and said, I'm not going to keep him from our children. I'm not going to have our issues infiltrate that?
Yeah, so for me it was, when I was thinking about leaving and everything was just piling on and I didn't know what to do, I really looked at it and, people laugh, but they Google, should I stay for the kids and all of that, and I thought about it, and I was just like, the two of us are not great together. We butt heads all the time, but these kids need to see what love between two adults that are together and married really is, and I did not foresee being able to show that to them. So, he had issues, I had my own, we both played a part in that marriage and how it ended. And really, I looked at my kids and I said, this is not what I want. However, even if I have to give them up half time, at least when they're with me, I can create this whole new life between us that they have with me, and whatever he does in his life with the kids and whoever he meets, they can do over there. And I know that halftime with me is just going to be spectacular and so much different than I would have been able to provide if we had stayed together.
That's beautiful that you could see that while you were going through so much pain and within yourself. And I give you a lot of kudos for that. And you have resiliency. I talked to you about that before. And that's really what does get people through these very tough times. And you mentioned at the beginning that he is still very much involved within the children's life. Is that true?
That's true today. We had our bumps, and there was a point that we had to go back to court for differing opinions. And after that was done, we really laid out a parenting plan because we didn't have it before.
Okay. And
that's been a little over a year now, and the life that he has with the kids, I can see is so much better than it used to be before.
And do you feel that this is much more beneficial for your children and they are more well-adjusted? You see how I said more? than kids that, are caught in the middle of their parents' divorce?
Yeah, when we were, on my side, I can only speak for me, but at the times where I caught myself complaining about him or reacting in a way to the kids when they would say something negative that happened over there was a lot of resistance of sharing with me, and you just could feel the tension. And my kids, I really feel like I was putting them in a place where they didn't know what they could and could not share. And over the past couple of years, I have really opened up that communication, especially with my daughter. She's now 11, and she was suffering from a lot of anxiety. And we journal together, and we talk, and she'll share stuff with me, and she knows that I'm not going to turn around and use it against anyone, but she just needs a sounding board. And sometimes that's just her journal. And I believe that has changed our relationship so much.
Yeah, I'm sure it didn't, and that's a great tool that you gave her, just to write out your own feelings. You don't have to share it with anybody. I'm here for you if you want to talk about it. but what you're doing is giving her a voice and an outlet for everything that is stuffed inside of her, and that's what kids need of all ages that go through divorce. So that's a great thing and skill that you've given her. All right, so let's talk about co-blending. I know you have these amazing 3 C's that you believe in, as do I: confidence, compassion, and communication. This is what is needed in co-parenting. But Gabby, it's not always easy to do this with your clients, is it?
No, it can be a challenge, and especially because every person that I work with comes from a different spot in whether they're divorced or they're thinking about it or they've been co-parenting for 10 years and it's not working.
Right, and when we come back from our first break, we're going to talk more about how you build confidence, compassion, and communication with the families that you work with. Before we go to break, is there one particular tip that you can give the audience in terms of compassion?
Yeah, I would say compassion is the number one thing. When I work with someone, they look at that word and they say, no way. There's no way that I can have compassion for my ex. Yep. But if you can work to understand where they're coming from, understand how they've gotten to where they are today, and do that for yourself too, the compassion for you and what you went through, it is going to impact your relationship and co-parenting so much more positively than you could ever imagine. And it just takes that little ounce of compassion for that person and you.
Exactly. I couldn't have said that better myself. And when we come back from the break, we're going to have more with Gabby Gast. She is a co-parenting and blended family coach. And we're going to talk more about confidence, compassion, and communication when it comes to you and your family. And we'll be back in just a moment.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Boardwalks built for fun. Legendary rock and roll clubs.
This is how we do it.
Casinos by the ocean.
Hippity hop.
Now that's New Jersey. 130 miles of beautiful beaches. Solid rock. And everything in between. Now that's New Jersey. Plan your New Jersey trip at visitnj.org. Waves of fun. Nights of excitement. And a trail of memories. Now that's New Jersey.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Dr. Sue and You. Today we're talking about divorce, co-parenting, and blended families. If divorce isn't difficult enough, blending a family is even more difficult. And today we have an expert with us, Gabby Gast, who is talking to us about how to co-parent and blend your family. And I'd like to welcome her back into the show. Hi, Gabby.
Hi.
Gabby, so before we went to the break, we were talking about the 3 C's of co-parenting.
Yes.
Confidence, compassion, and communication. So what I'd like you to do is take us through each one of those terms and tell us how you see this working in co-parenting. Then we'll talk about blended families as well.
Awesome. So in the 3 C's, I really look at them as, I'm sorry. So I look at the 3 C's in an order. So when you are going through a divorce, or you're blending a family, or you are moving forward in whatever stage of marriage you are in, you really have to look at yourself and the confidence that you have. And with that confidence, you can move forward into compassion and communication. So when it comes to confidence in co-parenting, the biggest piece that I focus on is you have to believe in what you are advocating for, and that you really want it. Because in our minds, if we want something and we tell ourselves that it's never going to happen, you don't have that confidence and that fearless feeling within that it will happen. And if you're constantly negative and you say it won't, it's not going to happen for you. And if it does, it's going to happen in a way that you don't appreciate or like. So you have to advocate for your kids. You have to advocate for the needs of you as the co-parent, whether you're mom or dad. And so that's where the confidence comes from. Is I work with people, after a divorce, for so many, we lose what we always had passions for before our marriage and into it, because we kind of form and change into this person we think we need to be. And so I work with people to figure out, what is it that you want? Like, there's the big picture, the dream that you want, and there's this middle, really a reality of where you want to be. And we work towards that. And by building your confidence so that you can break through anything that, is in your way, it's not that when you are fearless, you have zero fears, but really when fear arises, you've learned how to break through it so that you are less fearful of what is going to happen. Mm-hmm. So we all have fears. It's normal. So that's where we work in confidences so that you can advocate for your kids and advocate for yourself with your co-parent.
So let me talk to you a little bit about this. I like what you're saying in terms of the confidence, meaning you have to say to yourself, what is it that I want? Do I want to have a co-parenting relationship with my ex that is somewhat peaceful? And you really have to hold that within your mind, that is what you want, even in difficult situations. I'm not going to let him or her push my buttons. I'm not going to respond in an impulsive way. I am going to do whatever it takes to create a peaceful connection to this other human being because I want this for my children. Is that what we're talking about here?
That's exactly it. Flowing into the communication piece of it, I have these 4 stages of co-parenting communication. And it comes with, if the relationship is toxic, no communication due to a relationship that may have been abusive or narcissistic tendencies or unsafe. And then if the co-parent is absent, so they honestly are emotionally unattached to the children. And some people look at that as laziness, but I really look at it as they're unemotionally attached. And so there's also civil. So that would be, experiencing difficulty without being negative and, disrespectful, whether that's you as the co-parent or them as the co-parent. And you have this relationship where sometimes it's difficult to keep the kids out of it, but you have to keep it the decisions about the kids. And then the last one, which does happen, and most people that I talk to want this as the stage they want to be in, but it's okay if it doesn't get there, is engage, where both parents communicate well and there are little to no issues.
Yeah, you have to get through this other three before you can get to that one. But it is possible. And do you think the shift happens when the focus within the person trying to make this peaceful really focuses on this is going to be beneficial for the children, and I must put aside my negative feelings for this other human being, because if I hang on to those negative feelings, I'm not going to be able to move forward here?
Yeah, definitely. And for me, it's looking at it as I'm not the ex-wife or the ex-husband. I'm the mom of my children, and they're the dad of my children. So if you can remove that ex-wife and ex-husband from what you relate your co-parent to or call them, internally, like, you are going to feel so much more of a weight lifted, because you take away that emotional attachment that you always had to them.
I think that is a great point, and I want to reiterate that again, that you are not looking at it as I am your ex-spouse. You're looking at it as I am the mother or the father of this child. I mean, that's a really mindset change there. And I think that can be very helpful in dealing with all of this. Great. That's a great thing you just put out to us there. So let's move in now to compassion. Look, Gabby, I mean, let's be honest. People watching this are going to say, how do you want me to have compassion for somebody that hurt me so much? But it is possible, right? Because that's what I talk about, right? Compassion cures conflict. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that in terms of how you see the compassion curing the conflict when you're co-parenting. It is essential if you do want to move forward.
It really is. And honestly, for me, I can say that I'm one of those who, he emotionally, mentally, all of it turned out to physical abuse. And for me, I only let it happen one time when, he hit me. But for many, we tend to really not know what to do, and we're stuck. And when you get away, and like you're saying, it's like, well, he really hurt me, or he was abusive, or whatever the relationship was, it is a challenge, and it's really hard to do it on your own. And the way that I look at it is looking at it for the kids. So I really struggled because there were a lot of things that he said verbally to me when we were together, and it was all around my health. And even when I was sick, he was not very present to help me. So I was doing it all myself. And I learned over time that to really bring in that compassion for him, I had to really not focus on what had happened in the past. Not say it didn't happen, but really do change what happened for me into, we were together and we adopted these two amazing kids, and we did get through that life, and we enjoyed camping and looking at the more positive things. And then also taking into consideration, his life growing up as a kid with his family and how it all molded together. And then afterwards, I really focused on what the kids are going to see going forward. Because for me, to have that compassion for him, because it was so toxic between us, I had to really ditch the negative feelings and the hurt that I had and focus on, hey, the kids just came back from his house and they had a great time camping. And so focusing on the positivity with my kids around what they were doing with their dad and not like drilling them all the time, all of those played into how I was able to create this level of compassion so that when I spoke with him and communicated, I wasn't afraid and I didn't feel like I was always going to lose and not be able to advocate for the kids.
It's beautiful what you just said there. I mean, this is what we want every parent that is going through this we want them to see this in this way. But it's not always easy to do that. And so you really are sending out a very powerful message today. I just want to go back and correct one thing that you said, because I think it's important, and it's important for me to say this to you as well, that you said you only let the abuse happen one time. Honey, it's not about letting. That never should have been done. What I think you meant to say is that after that one time, I left. So I know, and I just want to clarify that, because what happened there was absolutely wrong. All right. And I want to say that. All right, I can't even believe this, but we're already running out of time. And what you're saying is so great. Let's just go to communication quickly.
Yeah,
what is positive communication when you're communicating with an ex that you really just can't stand? Let's put it bluntly.
It's focused on the kids. That's what it is. Yeah. What do the kids need right now? And how can you get them what you need? And you really have to have that level of compassion so that you're not walking in always controlling whatever the situation is that you're advocating for, whether it be the kids to see a doctor for something or homework to be done. You have to get in a place where you can really come to an agreement together, not giving in, but really being open to, we can make this work. We're a team, and these are my children, or my son or my daughter, and they're his as well. Because if you are butting heads constantly with communication and you always say no, things like that, it will continue to go that route, and the kids will notice and continue to notice the conflict between.
It's like what Dr. Seuss says, right? That's me. Yeah. You cannot cure conflict with more conflict. You just can't do it. And I know that it's difficult when somebody's pushing your buttons, but you have a choice whether you want to respond to that or not respond to that. And I think it's important to do what Gabby is always saying. I have to focus now because I have to put the kids first. That is what is most important here. What you're talking about in terms of the 3 C's, does that carry over into blending families and co-blending them?
It definitely does, because you're talking about most likely your partner, your spouse is co-parenting with someone else if they had kids before you. And the communication, the confidence, all of that is needed, because when you are blending a family, if you don't put that other person in the front seat and the kids in the back seat, close second, you are the foundation. Not only were you the foundation before, but it's different with a blended family, because if you don't put your spouse in the front seat, they will feel it and feel like they are put behind your kids, and that is going to initially create resentment and conflict and all of it. So it really all flows in together.
Well, you're gonna have to come back on, and we'll have you on just to talk about blended families, because that could be a show in itself. But what you have offered today to our viewers is amazing. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I've enjoyed all of this great information and actionable steps that people can take to improve their lives. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm at GabbyGast.com. It's GabbyGast.com. And I have a chat box on my website, and you can reach out and we can talk, and you can grab a free call with me on there if you want to talk more about co-blending, and I'd be happy to support whatever anyone is looking for.
Yeah, because I think co-blending is a whole different area in itself when you're trying to merge families. That's not what I know best about, but you certainly do. So reach out to Gabby on this. Thank you, Gabby, for everything you're doing to help our divorced families out there and our blended families. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Dr. Sue. Have a great day.
Thank you. All right, everybody, that's another episode of Dr. Sue and You. Wow, did we learn a lot today about co-parenting and about blending families with Gabby Gast. Look, it's like what I say all the time, right? In order to have peace in your life, you have to make a choice within yourself to create that. And you can do that by going within yourself and making a promise that you are going to put your kids first, and that you are going to communicate with your ex in a way that will create peace. But you have to want that, promise it to yourself, and believe that you can become the solution to any conflict within your life. Thanks, everybody, for joining me for another episode of Dr. Sue and You. Have a great day.